So I bid you several welcomes to the Good Listening To show with me, Chris Grimes, and this is the show that brings you the clearing, where all good questions come to be asked. I think you'll find, and all good stories come to be told. And we are indeed blessed with the presence of today, Lorraine Williams from the Thyroid Trust. Hurrah!
Hurrah, hello.
So the sound of one man clapping, but there could be billions of people listening. Ovs. So Lorraine, you are extremely welcome. And in the Good Listening To show, I'm going to bounce you along some lovely storytelling metaphors, which hopefully, as the program evolves, will become very familiar in a really nice way for people to feel sort of slightly warmed, their heart cockles warmed by the storytelling metaphors I'll describe shortly. But you are from the Thyroid Trust. You are called Lorraine Williams. How are you? How's morale? What's your story of the day?
Oh gosh, I'm good. Morale is good. I didn't know I was going to be asked for a story of the day. Do you mean what have I been doing today?
You can interpret that however you like. I mean, I remember a couple of days ago we were going to do it yesterday, but you were really lovely and flexible, and I liked you even more because I had a
Oh,
spontaneous opportunity to go and visit my parents in Leicester, and you were completely lovely about just being, "That's wonderful. Go see your parents, and I'll see you tomorrow." So we're doing this on a Sunday. So
hmm.
how's your Sunday been? Is really what I'm asking.
Yeah, Sunday's been lovely. I was really delighted that you were able to see your parents yesterday. I hope you had a lovely time with them. And I've been on the beach this morning with my lovely husband, which was very nice. I had a little walk along Margate Beach, and it was a bit blowy, but it was nice and bright and sunny. And we sat on the steps and looked at the seagulls and didn't feed them any chips, which they didn't like, but we were pleased about. So yeah, having a nice day. And then I've been
Lovely.
thinking about this and putting my banner up before talking to you.
Yes, and what a majestic banner has gone. I know this is obviously more of a radio show, but the idea is you've got the Thyroid Trust there emblazoned. And in researching you, I've really enjoyed myself, by the way, because you've got a lovely mantra within the site very, very quickly, which is the thyroidtrust.org. You're not alone with thyroid disease. And I
Yeah.
just think that's just a really lovely way for people to come to get some really good information and know that it is a sense of community and there is help there to be had, which is of itself a lovely resonance with what we're here to achieve also on UK Health Radio.
No, well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come on and talk about the Thyroid Trust, which is a very new little charity, and talk a bit about thyroid disease. And the reason we have that as our strap line, if you like, on the website, "You're Not Alone," is because so many people with thyroid condition just do feel very alone, feel very overlooked. It's not something that's talked about very much. So absolutely thrilled to have the opportunity. And yeah, that's why we exist, to try and change that, make things better for people affected by thyroid disease.
And indeed, just in the quick bit of research, you'll know far more, and please tell us as much as you need to about this. But there are 3 million affected in the UK alone, so of course we're not alone.
Yes, more than 3 million. And in fact, that's sort of 3 point something million is with the most common thyroid condition, which I have myself, which is an underactive thyroid. There's
Okay.
about 5% of the population as a whole have any one of a number of different thyroid conditions. So it's really common. And I guess part of why it's not talked about a lot is because usually it's pretty easy to treat. Most people, they take the medicine, they're fine, they get on with their lives. But there's a proportion, maybe between 10 and 20% of people who have a much more difficult time with it. And they're really the ones that we're there to try and support and provide the information that they might need and yeah, just sort of make a difference for.
And it's a quirky old gland because it can be underactive, overactive, hyperactive, not active at all. People can live without one too. It can be removed as well, can't it? Your thyroid.
Yes, and some people are born without one. It's every baby that's born in the UK is tested shortly after birth for congenital hypothyroidism, and if that wasn't treated, then they would not have a very nice life at all. But fortunately, the thyroid produces hormones, and if
Yes.
those hormones are not being produced either because there's no thyroid gland there or there's something wrong with it, then you can take a synthetic version of the hormones, and that generally means that little babies who would have had very little chance of having much of a life before now can go on and lead
Yes.
a full and happy and productive
And I've
life.
I've
Thank
heard it.
goodness.
Sorry to interrupt. I've heard it described before as being like a butterfly-shaped gland in your neck. Would that be accurate?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You've got two lobes on either side,
Yeah.
and a lot of the awareness raising activity we do, we use the butterfly as a bit of a theme because that sort of idea of it being a butterfly gland is a good one. And what you were saying about trying to say to people, you're not alone with thyroid disease. One of the things that we hear from so many patients is that when they were first diagnosed, and this was the case for me as well, they might have heard the word thyroid, but they didn't know where it was or what it was or what it
Yes.
did. So just getting across that simple message, it's a butterfly-shaped gland that sits in your neck and controls every cell in your body, is quite a simple message for people to get their head around. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So yeah, we talk about the butterfly gland quite a lot.
Lovely. And in fact, finally, I'm a beautiful butterfly is a comic line from a film I remember seeing
Is
years ago.
it?
Finally,
Excellent.
I'm a beautiful butterfly.
Finally, I am a beautiful butterfly. I was talking to one of our high-profile supporters a couple of days ago, doing an interview with him, and he came on the line, and I said, "Oh, hello, Michael, I'm Lorraine," and he said, "Oh, yes, Thyroid Lorraine, as I call you." I was like, "Great."
Oh, and
I'd
indeed,
much
it's
rather
my.
think of myself as a beautiful butterfly.
No, you are, of course, a beautiful butterfly. And in fact, talking a bit of Michael Rosen is the man you're talking about, isn't he?
Indeed, indeed,
And he
yes.
too, like you, has had his own extraordinary journey. I mean, in the last
Very
year,
much
he's
so.
been a real hero for many because he's been a COVID survivor with
Yeah.
a seismic story. But he's also got, as you were interviewing him about, as I appreciate, a bit of a seismic story and journey pertaining to his butterfly as well.
Yes, no, very much so. Michael's started having symptoms of thyroid disease in the 1960s, and didn't really know what was going on, but was just kind of flopping through life, not being very well. And it was finally diagnosed in the 1980s, which again is not uncommon. Oftentimes it takes people a long time before their
Yes.
condition is actually picked up. And he's written an amazing book called This Is Not My Nose, which anyone who has thyroid disease can probably immediately go, oh God, I can so relate to that, because so many of us have sort of spent time with thyroid disease looking at ourselves in the mirror. It can change your face. It can make your face sort of puffy and swollen, and can do very odd things. And so many of us can relate to the idea of looking at ourselves and going, is that me? Is that really me? So
Yes.
this is not my nose. And unfortunately, he's been effectively treated for his condition since the 1980s, and it doesn't hold him up now. He's a very successful author and an amazing all-round good guy. One of
Yes.
our best and dearest thyroid friends.
I love that expression, one of our best and dearest thyroid friends. What a wonderful.
He is. He truly is.
So I'm going to take you through the wonderful storytelling metaphors of the Good Listening To show. So first of all, we're going to talk about clearing. So before I ask you in the journey of this specifically, what brought you to the Thyroid Trust clearing? Just go there first. You're implying why, because obviously you're having your own journey with it. But what brought you to the space of why you're now the director of the Thyroid Trust?
Gosh. Well, I got ill about 10 years ago now. And I was probably ill for a good while before I was diagnosed, as that's a very common experience for people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember being in meetings with colleagues. I was working actually for another health charity at the time. I used to work for Cancer Research UK, and I was 42, and I was working with lots of much younger, extremely bright people. And I'd be having conversations with people, and I would be sort of struggling to follow what was being said. And I remember something I said to people quite often was, can you just repeat what you said?
Yes.
And it was because I was actually having dementia-like symptoms, but I didn't know that was what was going on at the time. My brain just wasn't working properly. I just thought, oh, these people are all young and I'm middle-aged now and I can't keep up. But actually, it was more serious than that. And eventually and I remember going into work and somebody said, how are you? And I said, oh, I'm tired, but I'm okay. And they said, why are you always tired? I said, oh, I don't really know, am I? I hadn't really noticed the fact that I was more tired than other people, but I really was.
Yes.
And I went into work one day and I said to my boss, I said, you know what, I'm going to do this meeting and then I think I'm going to go home. I think I need a couple of days off. I'm really not well. I think I should probably go and see my doctor. And I ended up being off for 4 months. And I was absolutely like a little cabbage during that time. I could not function. It was very frightening. And I spent a lot of time looking at myself and going, oh, I don't really look like myself, and I was watching lots of daytime television and thinking I must be really ill to be watching this dreadful,
And were you
dreadful
drawn to your
stuff.
nose, as you mentioned that, by the way, during this period of contemplating?
No, I think for me it was my eyes were really swollen, and there's some odd pictures that I took of myself at the time because as I was starting to feel better, I'd take pictures of myself to see if my face was looking better.
Yes.
And you look back at some of those pictures when I thought I was better. And like my eyebrows were up here. And
Okay.
well, it was very peculiar. It was very strange, but my nose might have been a bit thicker, but I didn't particularly notice that. Anyway, it was a very scary, very unpleasant, very horrible experience. And I wanted there to be a support group for people with thyroid conditions when I was well enough to actually go out into the world and look for such a thing. And there wasn't one in London where I was living at the time. And so I ended up setting up a support group in London and ran that as a volunteer for about 4 years. And then someone else was able to take over that group for me. It was quite a lot of work. And I was quite a lot better 4 years down the line. So I managed to persuade someone else to take it on. And there was a lovely team of volunteers who were all working together.
Yeah.
And then in 2016, that lady stood down and there wasn't anyone to carry on doing the sort of the coordinating, sort of the main thrust of organising everything. And we were very, very fortunate that somebody that I spoke to about the situation, saying that we don't want to lose this this support group in London, said to me, well, you know, why don't you set up a new charity, and you know, maybe we can get some funding for your time. And lo and behold, I had a new job. And it started off, I was just doing sort of, you know, day and a half a month, really just organising support and information events. And it was very obvious to us very quickly that there was a big opportunity and a big need to do a lot more awareness raising and advocacy work. So now I'm working on it kind of all the time, really. It has sort of taken over my life.
I love how profound that is, the idea that the diagnosis that changes your life, but also clarifies your life and gives you an extra purpose.
No,
Pulls you towards
hugely.
your future.
Yeah, no, hugely, hugely. And it was so funny that I was working for Cancer Research UK as well, because I'd sort of come to that in a bit of a circuitous route, but I'd sort of started my career doing jobs that maybe were not that meaningful,
Yes.
but where I was sort of picking up a set of professional skills. And I worked in publishing for a long time, and then I sort of moved into more sort of marketing more broadly. And then I had a bit of an epiphany that I wanted to do something worthwhile, and started working for big charities doing fundraising and marketing stuff. And so although I'm learning all the time doing this job, and I've got a lot to learn for sure, I feel like somebody somewhere was kind of giving me a lot of skills and knowledge that I needed to be able to do this job, and I'm grateful for that.
And by the way, purpose is a delicious segue into coming later. We're going to talk about alchemy and gold, and something I promise to reveal what diamonds beneath your feet is, not to you personally, but I've been mentioning this in my program so far. And I know that people are thinking, what is that story? Please tell us. But I'm going to keep it as hanging for a bit.
Lovely.
So welcome to the metaphorical stroke literal clearing now, not the clearing of Thyroid Trust specifically. We want to find out the story behind the story now, if I may. So Lorraine Williams from the Thyroid Trust, obs. But now, what is a clearing like for you, metaphorically or literally? Where do you go? You mentioned a beachscape earlier on. It doesn't have to be that, but where do you prefer to go to get clutter-free, inspirational, and get some oxygen blowing between your brain cells to think and plan?
So for me, a clearing is a very specific thing. And in a clearing, there's nothing here. So you come into a clearing with no baggage, no preconceptions, no necessarily expectations. You come in, and a clearing is a space where you can create. And if you create from nothing rather than the clutter that's probably already in your head, then you can create something which is more powerful. So I think of a clearing as a very powerful conceptual thing, if you like. And I'm a mindfulness practitioner, so that sort of just paying attention to what's real and what is here and dealing with that, rather than paying attention to everything that's in your head, the sort of conversations and chatters that we have in our head. That's
I
what the
love
clearing
that
is for me.
interpretation, and it's very relatable to my own conception of the idea of this. I know I'm not the first person to mention the words "the clearing," but for me, it's like a comedy, improvisational theatre in the round. Yes, and anything is possible.
Nice.
An empty space where the audience will colour in the pictures for you in the comedy improvisational world. So it's like it's empty, but anything's possible. And even the idea of giving somebody a good listening to is the idea of bringing them to that space which is decluttered. So I love your interpretation to resonate with my own. So thank you for that.
Nice. And I love that you do comedy. That's such an exciting, fun thing.
And so welcome to your clearing. With your permission now, I'm going to bring a tiny bit of clutter into your clearing. I'm going to arrive with a tree now for the next of the metaphors.
Fantastic. We love trees.
So a bit like Waiting for Godot now, there's this sort of empty scape with, that's the Beckett play, and I'm going to plunge your tree. So what's on the ground? Is it sand? Or so what's the texture like that I'm going to plunge the tree into?
Definitely grass. It's lovely, soft green, emeraldy green grass. I've got bare feet, and you can feel connected to the ground. and it's
There you
lovely.
go. That's the audience now colouring in, and that's the realm of comedy improvisation. So now join me with the tree, with the rain, and sumptuous green, lovely grass.
And
Lovely.
bare toes.
Bare toes. Oh, love
Yes.
that connection.
Mm.
What's the sky doing? Just while we're there riffing
Oh,
on it.
it's so blue and clear. Yes. Beautiful,
Love that.
bright blue, clear sky, nothing in it, no clouds.
We both accessorised, if you're watching this and listening, we've both got blue on today. Go figure.
Yes.
And of course, in the modern world, we've only got to look dressed from the waist up. We don't need to go there. That's fine. And
Hang on.
so and lovely shoes. You've got a purple legged and some nice there as well. Anyway, so now we're going to shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out. And this is where you've had 5 minutes, Lorraine Williams, to have thought about 4 things that have shaped you. And there's an invitation to go deep in all of this. 3 things that inspire you, 2 things that never fail to grab your attention, inspired by the film Up. This is the squirrels moment, what never fails to grab your attention. In my world, it's a bit like a ping pong table. Oh, ping pong, I'm there. And then 1 quirky or unusual fact about you we couldn't possibly know until you tell us. You don't have to shake the tree in a wanna. Over to you to interpret that and take us through your journey as you see fit. So crunch away on your apples, please.
Oh, okay. So 4 things that have shaped me. I think the first thing that shaped me was I had a bit of an unconventional, disrupted childhood. My mum actually died when I was 6, which was obviously not a nice thing to happen at all. And I was brought up by my dad, who was a jazz musician, so quite sort of unconventional. And we moved house a lot. And I went to lots of different schools, and it was all pretty stressful, to be honest. And I think having childhood like that can go one of 2 ways. And in my case, it made me quite resilient, and made me very adaptable as well. I went to 10 different primary schools, 2
Wow.
different secondary schools, and 2 further education colleges before I finally, by the skin of my teeth, landed up at Liverpool University. Woo, how did I manage that?
And the ripple effect on your own life, by the way, does that make you itchy feet and move around all the time? Or are you doing the opposite and finding constancy and being in one place? I'm interested to know.
Well, I did move around a lot until I stopped.
I moved until I stopped.
Yeah. I think, sort of moving and sort of knowing that one can always move on is very much a sort of learned habit, and that's quite a good coping strategy, because you don't get stuck in things that are not good for you. Sort of always able to move on and move away from things. But no, we've lived in the house that we live now for the last 10 years, and I lived in the house I lived in previously for 10 years as well. So sort of that moving hasn't carried on. But yeah, I think it made me an improviser. It made me able to deal with anybody, anywhere. If you're a 7-year-old child and you're turning up at your 4th school, as I did in one not very memorable but very challenging year, and you can get through it, then
And of course,
I'm always happy meeting new people.
Your father being a jazz musician, there's improvisation within jazz implicitly.
Yeah.
Still with us, your father?
No, sadly my dad died when I was 25. So again, sort of being pretty much on one's own and having to rely on oneself. I don't know why I'm going all pompous and going on to
No, but you've obviously found a real anchor to being resilient in everything you've described.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I think my childhood made me adaptable and resilient, and a good improviser.
By the way, you are lovely in that when I mentioned, can we rearrange because I'm going to see my parents, I had no idea about you or not having any parents anymore.
Well, I get what a big deal it is to spend time with your parents, spend all the time you can.
If I may thank you for that, because now I understand a bit, it's not that I didn't expect you to be flexible, but I was really struck with how you said, go, you must go.
Yeah,
now
you must go.
A bit more about the story behind your story there. Thank you.
Yeah. So that shaped me very much, a sort of unusual childhood, and we lived in different parts of the country as well. So I grew up mostly in Glasgow, but spent some time with an aunt and uncle in Canterbury, and now I live quite near to where they live on the East Kent coast. So that's been sort of quite nice.
Were you always moving because of your dad's jazz musicianship elsewhere?
No, I think. Do you know what? I think that my dad may well have had an undiagnosed thyroid condition.
Wow.
And obviously going from having a very, very stable family life as he did to being responsible for little me and not having my mum around anymore would be horrific for any man. But I suspect it was possibly particularly difficult for him because perhaps his brain wasn't quite as on the ball as
That's an
normally it would be. And
extraordinary.
he
Sorry
was
to
he
put that.
was constantly searching for a simpler life.
Yes.
So, you know, let's go, no, instead, let's move out of the family home, which is in Glasgow, and let's go to a smaller house that will cost less money and will be easier for me to take care of. And oh, let's go and live in Cornwall because there would be a nice simple life there. Oh, there's no work in Cornwall. Let's send you off to live with your auntie and uncle, and I'll just think about things. And oh, let's get you and go and live on this farm in this caravan in Ayrshire because that's going to be easy. And oh God, no, you're approaching puberty. Let's let's settle down a little bit more. So yeah, I think he was just searching for a simpler life, and I think he had this perception that I was this little person that was quite portable and adaptable, and it didn't matter so much until he realised actually it did.
And what I'm hearing there, you've made me think of the notion of tumbleweed, the idea of his brain being a bit
Yeah,
froggy, tumbleweedy, and he's sort of
yeah,
tumbleweeding around to find constancy.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah.
just what that made me think.
Yeah, no, I think describing my dad as a bit sort of tumbleweedy is quite a good way. So he also worked in ad agencies. He was a commercial artist. So apart from the times when he wasn't working, that was what he was doing. And it turned out that most of that sort of work was actually in Glasgow for him. But yeah, he was a very talented jazz musician, and he gigged all the time as well. So the next thing that really shaped me, I think, was my early career in London. And I as I say, I sort of managed to get into Liverpool University by the skin of my teeth. And then I managed to be offered an entry-level job in publishing in London, also by the skin of my teeth, really not quite knowing what I was getting myself into. But I was really lucky that I worked for some really good companies and got some really fantastic training and met some really great people and kind of learned a set of professional skills that have served me well throughout
Yeah.
the remainder of my career. And, you know, sort of built up a bit of confidence and sort of recognized that I had an ability to make things happen that, you know, I
Well,
think
what's
if
really
I'd gone to Stack Shelves and Tesco, I wouldn't have had that.
what's really in listening to you, what I love is the fact that you're really surprised that people open doors for you. But actually,
Mm,
in life, there is reciprocity. It doesn't surprise me that people are
mm,
opening doors because you've got a very
mm,
positive attitude and mindset to how you're functioning. So
mm. Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I think my mum probably gave me that. I think my mum was a sort of positive, loving influence in my early years and gave me a good solid grounding.
still shaking your tree now. We're still doing the shaping, aren't we? I think.
Oh, okay. So still shaping. I think the next thing that has really shaped me is inward reflection and mindfulness practice. And you know, you were saying what does a clearing mean for you? And I've been on 1,000 courses and worked with lots of different people. I think, you know, having had a difficult childhood probably drove me initially to sort of therapy and that sort of thing. And you know, I think the more I learn about what makes me tick and what makes human beings tick, and the power of just sitting still and being quiet and paying attention to reality, um, all of that stuff has been, you know, hugely beneficial for me.
Yes.
And again, has sort of, I think when I was younger, I was strong, but maybe I don't want to say manic because that sounds unwell, but sort of a bit.
Yes.
Whereas now I think I have a much calmer energy because of the mindfulness practice and a lot more sort of insight into, you know, what's driving me. And I think that's given me a lot more empathy for other people as well, I think. So that's been a big thing. And then we've already talked about how thyroid disease has had a big impact on my life. That's certainly shaped my career, and
And
also sort of made me very passionate about wanting to help other patients.
yes, and I can't let go the awareness that you offered, that you suspect with the gift of hindsight that your father had an undiagnosed thyroid condition.
Yeah,
It's really profound.
yeah. I mean, you know, we can't know that for sure, but
Yeah.
it just seems quite likely. And one of the things that can happen if you have an undiagnosed thyroid condition is it can ultimately lead to a heart attack. And he had a heart attack and died at 63.
Okay.
And weight gain can be a big issue for people with an underactive thyroid. And bless him, he sort of, his stomach just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and he was very perplexed by it and cross about it. And you know, that's something that I've seen with so many people, myself included, with
Yes.
thyroid disease when it's not well managed. So, you know, we'll never know, but perhaps that might have been the case. And it's affected other people in my family as well. So it's not just me that's I've seen it have an impact on.
Thank you. And now we're down to 3 things that inspire you. And you're giving
Yes.
inspiration anyway, but what
Yeah,
next?
so the sea inspires me. I'm
Okay.
lucky enough now to live very close to the sea, which was a lifelong dream. As I say, I spent some of my childhood in Cornwall by the sea. And I remember trips to the seaside when I was very small. As I say, my dad, I think, struggled a bit as a single parent, but he was always very good at taking me and little friends on day trips. And the seaside was something that we always went to. So yeah, I love being close to the sea, and I just find the air and the movement of the sea and all the different colors that you get in the sky and the water is just so re-energizing and wonderful.
The positive
Um,
eons at work. Lovely.
yeah, and then I'm very inspired by original art. And by original art, it could be a pop song, it could be a poem, it could be a painting or a photograph. But, you know, I love it when people are really self-expressed and do really sort of different original things. So I get really excited about that. And
I
I
love
write a
how you
bit of.
said poem then, by the way. It's like a poem. It was a lovely Scottish twang of the poem there.
Everybody picks me up on how I say that word.
Can you say it again for our joy and delectation? That was lovely.
Poem.
You've changed it now. It had much more of a deep seismic. Sincerely, I loved it. I
I
wasn't
can't do it if you ask me to. No, I know. People say it to me a lot, and now that you've noticed it, I can't change it. When I first worked in London, and I worked in media sales, and I spent a lot of time on the phone, and people would pick up on various different words that you would say in a very Scottish way. So as soon as someone picks you up on something, you immediately subconsciously adapt it. So I'll
Oh,
probably never say poem the same way again,
I'm
Chris,
sorry. I
and
didn't
it'll
mean
be
you
all
to
your
hide it.
fault.
I wanted to celebrate it, not hide it.
I used to say bath in a very Scottish way, but I don't know if I still do that. I've no idea. And then the third thing that kind of inspires me, I don't know if inspires is the right word, but really drives me, is injustice. I
Okay.
get really cross about things not being fair. My dad used to say to me that he thought I should be a head teacher when I grew up because I had this sort of great, sort of what he said, I had an overdeveloped sense of justice.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, well, again, coming back to the charity, we get very cross about the fact that some thyroid patients get a really, really raw deal. And I'm really motivated to address that with all the oomph that we can bring to the fight.
And I know that there is a specific event coming up in May to do
Mm.
with a motion in Scottish Parliament, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, which is really amazing. Actually, there's a member of the Scottish Parliament called Elaine Smith, who actually she's just stood down as an MSP, but she's been one for 20 years, I think. And she has a thyroid condition herself and had a very, very difficult time with it. And she's been involved in a lot of campaigning in the Scottish Parliament since 2012, when a group of patients brought a petition to the Scottish Parliament asking MSPs to look at the plight of thyroid patients. And Elaine's outgoing motion is to coincide with World Thyroid Day, which is the 25th of May.
Okay.
And the motion is for MSPs to be thyroid champions, to stand up for people with thyroid disease. So we're really asking everyone in Scotland to get their MSP to support that motion, but also we really like this idea of thyroid champions. And we think if you're a thyroid champion, Chris, because you're giving me airspace to talk about thyroid disease.
You're very welcome. It's
All of
giving
you at UK Health Radio are thyroid
giving
champions.
giving flight to your butterfly, please. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yes, exactly. So we're sort of thinking, last year I dressed up as a butterfly and ran around my hometown on my own, because of course it was the middle of pandemic, you couldn't do it in a group. And a lady who lives near me who has thyroid disease, a fantastic lady called Victoria, she and her brother did the same thing. So I'm saying to her brother, you're a thyroid champion, Sam, you're an absolute champion for thyroid patients. So anybody who fancies doing anything to help support the charity and take on the mantle of being a thyroid champion, and as well as supporting that motion in the Scottish Parliament, would be fantastic.
And you've just reminded me, by the way, in one of my early formative acting experiences, I was in James and the Giant Peach.
Ah, amazing.
I remember the butterfly in that, and also the ladybird was the lady I subsequently married, actually.
Oh, how adorable.
And I was Uncle Earthy or Earthworm.
Oh,
Go
that's
figure.
fantastic.
It's not about me. Back to you and your butterfly. So
Oh,
we've finished with inspiration now, I think. Is that right?
yes, that's the three things that inspire me: the sea, original art, and injustice.
Go you. And now it's 2 things that never fail to grab your attention, please, Lorraine Williams.
Okay. Well, one thing that always grabs me, and I guess it sort of comes from the fact that my dad always worked in advertising, and then when I started worked in advertising and publishing. I get I'm always very impressed by clever marketing and good branding. Um, it comes down to just communicating things really
Yes.
well. You know, I really like it when companies do a good job of
Yeah.
conveying not just buy our products, but have a sense of sort of meaning behind what they're doing, and they're
Yes.
really clever in the way that they use colors and fonts and messages. Like, I love the fact that you picked up on our strapline of "You're Not Alone," because that's part
Yes.
of our brand.
Love
You
that.
know,
Absolutely clear.
I don't want to say that our brand is brilliant, because I mean I designed our brand sort of in the early days, but it's kind of got some meaning to it. You know, you've got the little coloured dots, and that's represents an inclusive and diverse support circle,
Lovely.
and the font, which is a sort of very traditional font, represents that we're sensible and take us seriously, please. So I kind of I love that kind of thing. There's an amazing
There's a
brand.
circle that we share in common, the clearing circle and the thyroid support circle
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
exactly, exactly. And you can be in our circle, whatever color you are, whatever color your hair is. You can have turquoise hair, you can have blonde, gray, you can be black or white, whatever. Come and sit in our circle and let's all support each other. But yeah, there's a chap who lives near me who has created a new brand based on making skincare products out of seaweed. And
Ah,
it's the seaweed that piles up on Margate Beach and stinks a bit. And he's called this brand Heckles, which is the old botanist who was renowned for understanding the sort of the botanics of the sea. And it's just so clever and so lovely. And he's, as part of his brand, he's got a sea bathing machine on the
lovely.
beach, which lots of people locally contributed money to, and we've all got our names on it. And then people can just go and use that free of charge because it's something they're doing for the community. And I just love to see companies doing clever, innovative
Well, that's
branding
so
stuff.
lovely as
It's
a
nice.
memory evocation for me, because I've enjoyed some wonderful seaweed baths near
Have
Valentia
you?
Island in Ireland, and it is
Oh,
an
lovely.
amazing experience. It really is.
Yeah, 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 it's great. I should just say that seaweed and thyroid disease are often sort of connected to people, because one of the things that makes your thyroid work is iodine. Well, actually,
Yep.
it's your thyroid gland converts iodine into thyroid hormones.
Ah, okay.
And there are some people who will say, well, you should take seaweed tablets and that will cure your thyroid. And I should just mention that actually those seaweed tablets have so much iodine in them that actually they can be bad for your thyroid, and you
Ah,
shouldn't do that,
good
because it
caveat.
can actually trigger the autoimmune
Right.
reactions. We don't digress slightly there, but as we're talking about seaweed, I just suddenly thought, oh,
Sure,
I
sure.
should just mention that. Yeah, so I like really clever marketing and brands. And the other thing that really grabs my attention is this issue of people not being taken seriously with thyroid disease. And I keep hearing patient stories that make me really cross and angry, and it really gets my
Which
attention and makes
resonates
me,
again with your sense of justice, which you've
it really
Grr.
does. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
And now a quirky or unusual fact about you we couldn't possibly know until you tell us.
Okay, completely random. I once played snooker with John Virgo.
Boom. And she's going for the black, and she's potted it. Awesome. 7 points, please. Did you beat?
Didn't say I won.
You
I got
technically
some good
played.
tips.
Very good. Nice fact.
Yeah,
Okay, we've shaken your tree,
we
and now
have.
we're going to move away from the tree but stay in the clearing. And we're talking about alchemy and gold now, which you've been giving
Mm.
us by the seaweed bucket load all the way through this. But when you are at purpose and in flow, what are
Mm.
you here to reveal to the world? And this is the diamonds beneath our feet moment as well. What's the
Yeah,
alchemy and gold that Lorraine Williams brings?
I just think I'm about communication. I think that's me.
And
She
you're very
says, becoming
helpful.
all incoherent.
No, but also there's a really, it's surfacing to also really wanting a strong desire to help others as well, which is just
Mm.
really lovely. Very
Yeah,
altruistic endeavor.
yeah, yeah. And also, I'm about trying to do things in a fresh way.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Freshness and communication and connections. Yeah.
Love that. And again, the
Mm.
profound diagnosis that then clarified and gave you a strong purpose.
Mm.
Yes. And when were you diagnosed, first of all, with your thyroid?
2009.
Thanks for reminding us of that.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to award you with a cake as your final gift for grace
Hurrah!
with your presence. Hurrah!
Hurrah!
Here in the Good Listening to show clearing. It's
Excellent.
deliberately a multi-layered cake, in that I'm going to ask you a bit of a multiple question, but know that I'm doing that deliberately. So it's open to
Okay.
interpretation. The
Okay.
cherry on the cake is the legacy of the conversation. Now, this can be or take the form of the best piece of advice you've ever been given,
Oh God. Yeah.
or it could be a favorite quote of inspiration that's always pulled you towards your future, and it could be advice you may give to a younger version of yourself.
Mm.
And keep oohing as I give you the last thing. Also inspired rather juicily by Shakespeare and all the worlds and stage and all the men and women merely players. There is an invitation to invite you to talk about legacy and how you would most like to be remembered. So it's all it's open to interpretation, and again, a final invitation to go deep. So what would you like the legacy of our conversation to be?
Oh, I would like the legacy of our conversation to be that people who didn't know about the Thyroid Trust hear about it and go and check us out online and go, wow, what an amazing little charity. I must support them. Give us some money so that we can keep going. That would be amazing. And also, I would like the legacy to be that people see that there is a charity for thyroid patients, and if they have a thyroid condition themselves, they feel less alone, and they can access the information and resources and event program that we have on our website, and that we can have more of an impact on more thyroid patients' lives. That's definitely the legacy that I'm hoping you're helping me create here today. That it's just about extending our reach, connecting with more people, both supporters and potential beneficiaries.
Lovely. That's such a clear resonance of your purpose being so strong about helping others with, the pain that you went through at the age of 42, and realizing we're not alone. And there's a real rich resource here that can help you, I suppose, realize that there's a condition out there that maybe you've got in what we've been listening to as well. And then this is a place to get help and clarification.
Yeah, I hope so. I just have to tell you, actually, we were talking about Michael Rosen earlier, who I interviewed for a series of interviews that we do with people affected by our thyroid friends, basically, we do interviews with. And he very kindly, after the interview, sent me a photograph of himself wearing a little Thyroid Trust badge, which I asked him to do. And we put that on social media last night. And this morning, I've had 40 people email me, sending us donations and asking if they can have a badge.
Oh, how lovely.
So the power of publicity is extraordinary.
Wonderful. And of course, Michael Rosen, we're going on a bear hunt. I was intrigued to talk to him anyway because of the COVID experience. So in the fullness of time, I'll see if he'll allow me to give him a good listening to too.
Yeah, I'll ask him for you. We're in quite regular contact with him. He's such a lovely lovely man.
And so let's just go heavy on your URLs now. So if we want to find out more about you, where should we go, Lorraine?
Okay, so the Thyroid Trust website is thyroidtrust.org. And then we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Thyroid Trust. We have a YouTube channel, which is just YouTube/Thyroid Trust. And on there, you'll find interviews that we do with our thyroid friends, but also interesting talks from some of the leading experts on thyroid disease in the country. I was going to say in the UK, but actually we had a talk at the tail end of last year from an amazing doctor in Copenhagen, who's so it's not just UK specialists. He's produced a tool for measuring quality of life in thyroid patients and patient-reported outcomes, and he gave an amazing talk about that, talk a lot, and we're from the University of Copenhagen, so we'll hopefully be talking to him about that again later this year. And then on the website, do have a look at the stuff that we're doing for International Thyroid Awareness Week, which is the 25th to the 31st of May. And I have to just give a little plug for something that we haven't mentioned yet. I said I love original art and writing and poetry and all that kind of stuff. We've actually got a partnership with a literary journal called Famadan Journal, and they are going to be publishing a special issue on World Thyroid Day, and they're encouraging people to send poems or prose or opinion pieces about thyroid disease, or indeed about other autoimmune conditions or mental health conditions, for a special issue that's coming out on the 25th of May. And I'm going to have a butterfly picnic, for butterfly and poetry picnic, because I don't think I feel quite well enough at the moment to run the 5 kilometers that I did last time. So we're looking for thyroid champions, please, to dress up as butterflies and run around and get friends and family to sponsor them to support the charity. Or if you don't have the energy to do that, why not organise a butterfly picnic, get friends and family to come and maybe make a little contribution to the charity. And if you like poetry, you can go online on World Thyroid Day, see the poems from Famadan Journal, and maybe read them to each other, because that's just a lovely thing to do.
get in. And I couldn't help noticing you dropped a guard and said poems twice in the way that I
Oh,
loved it.
good, good.
So thank you. You've not
I've
disappointed.
got my accent back. You
You've
haven't
got
killed
the
me,
rule of
you
three.
damn media professional, making me go all anglified. How dare you?
And
Poems. I can still say it.
you've given us 5 now. You just keep on giving. That's all.
I could sing you Flower of Scotland now just to retain that Scottishness, but my husband said I shouldn't do that.
No, please do. You can. We'll sort of play you out with Flower of Scotland. I love the fact you're going to do butterfly picnics as well. So much
Isn't
better.
that fun?
So much better than wasp picnics. I know wasps.
Well, yeah, we've all been to those.
I know they always turn up whether you want them or not, but actually they do get a bad press, wasps. I've seen some very good articles about how essential they are.
They're coming more in vogue now, aren't they?
They are.
There's another story to the wasp.
The wasp is the new black.
Yes.
Which is really irrelevant to what we're here to talk about, really. So anything else, as this is your moment in the sunshine, Lorraine Williams, is there anything else you'd like to say as we come to the end of this particular good listening to in your case?
Oh God, I don't know how long have we got. I could talk endlessly about thyroid disease. I'll tell you what I will mention, if you'll allow me to, is I alluded earlier to the issue of injustice in thyroid patients and how that makes me really cross. So something that we'd like your listeners to be aware of is if you know somebody who's got an underactive thyroid, which is the most common thyroid condition, and they don't seem to be very well with it, then it may be that if they go back to their GP and talk to them about the new NICE guidelines, which we recently worked very hard on influencing, their GP might agree to adjusting their dose, which can make a huge difference. So do you remember me describing when I was taking pictures of my face when I looked so unwell and my eyebrows were up here and I was all there? That was when I was on the wrong dose of thyroxine.
Okay, lovely.
And a higher dose made a huge difference. And one of the things that we managed to succeed to get into the new NICE guidelines is that they say, don't just treat a patient by what the blood test results say, pay attention to the symptoms. If they've still got symptoms, the blood test results say they're normal, adjust their dose. It might make a really big difference. And the other thing is, if the GP can't sort you out, you're entitled to specialist treatment. And there is a specialist medication, it's called T3, which some patients need to be fully well. And there's been a huge controversy around that, which people can find out more about on our website. If you go to the information pages, T3 News and Resources. But we've been campaigning in Parliament. We've been talking to NHS England and Health Watch England about improving access to this specialist treatment that some patients need. And that's been hugely controversial. And that's one of the reasons that we really need people to get behind us so we can do more of that high level advocacy work, because it's really, really important.
Lorraine, you are a veritable trailblazer. So you have been listening to Lorraine Williams at the Thyroid Trust, and good luck for the special week, which is the 25th to the 31st of May, isn't it? That's it's Thyroid Champions in May, and is that the global? Tell me the name of the campaign again.
So World Thyroid Day is on the 25th of May, and it is International Thyroid Week right up until the 31st of May.
Right up until the 31st of May. So thank you very much indeed. You've been listening to me, Chris Grimes, on the Good Listening To Show. This has been Lorraine Williams, and until next time, to your good health. And
thank you so much, Chris. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.